Caddis Maximus here, this time with a review and comparison of the Harbor Freight O-ring, hook, and pick sets. These are the two sets Harbor Freight has. They have a basic $2, what appears to be plat acetate handle pick set, and then they also have a more expensive, I think it was $7, 7-piece set, which is 4 polystyrene handle, so not even acetate, pick set with 3 ultra or heavy-duty large picks. The cheap $2 pick set here is actually one that I would recommend just because they are so cheap, and if you're doing kind of abusive type of uses, these are just great because you don't care. These things cost 50 cents a piece. Retail at Harbor Freight, you can use a 20% off coupon, so you can get these for like $1.60. And for that price, they're cheap enough to not worry so much if you bend them or nick up the tips or anything like that. You know, they seem like they're okay. The handles, let's actually take a pick and feel. The handles are actually pretty hard. I don't know if this is acetate, but they are pretty decent little squared off handles. I do like that they're bright orange, so they're easy to find. Chrome plated shafts. They feel like they're reasonably rigid. They are, like I said, chrome plated, but their diameter seems a little bit small. If we compare them, I think it's about the same as the black set. Actually, surprisingly enough, no. You can actually feel that the black set is more rigid. There's a little bit more extension on the black set, so it's a little bit longer. And you can definitely feel it's actually a more rigid material. So the orange handled ones really are cheesy. But for a basic O-ring pick set, and these do tend to get kind of beat up, they're not bad, considering the price. One thing I will mention, and I've found this with a lot of pick sets, is that most come with a hook, a 90-degree, and then an awl or just a sharp point. But always the fourth one, and in both of these sets, are the more odd-shaped ones where they have a little double bend in them. But even on Harbor Freight, there's 2 different styles. There's this style right here, which just has this bent downward to make a little trough and then bends upward. And on this one, it's like bent over at, say, 60 degrees, and then turn 90 degrees, and then that's bent upwards. This style is really good for when you have an O-ring inside of some area, because you can get in there and you can actually just pick into a little cutout or a groove where the O-ring is and get it out. Where this style is much more difficult to actually get into a groove. And so I've always kind of liked this style for removing internal O-rings and those types of, situations where you need to get inside something and then dig into the wall. Really nice shape here, and I've always wondered why pick sets have 2 different styles, and for how cheap these are, you may get both sets just to have both styles. I do recommend having professional grade or much higher quality picks because these cheap ones, they do tend to get damaged and bent pretty easily, even though surprisingly these polystyrene ones, and we'll take a look at those, are pretty rigid. These actually seem pretty decent. And we'll do a quick comparison against some more commercial ones in a second here. These are, surprisingly enough to hit their price point, more poorly manufactured. If we look closely here, you can see that they didn't wash the steel very well, so it has like all these water spots on it. It's the best way to describe it. The other thing that's obvious is for some reason on the 90-degree, it has some knurling there, although we can see that it is incredibly poor knurling. And then the rest of them, they just didn't even bother to knurl, so there's a bit of inconsistency there. These do have Pittsburgh stamped into them, but since these are polystyrene handles, these are pretty soft handles, and I believe there'll be some chemicals that these handles will be susceptible to. And I find it strange that they didn't use acetate, although acetate is a more expensive plastic. And then just a second ago, as we discussed, these black-handled ones actually are stronger and more rigid than the cheap $2 ones, which makes sense. They are charging a bit more money. The whole reason I even bought this set is not just to make a cringy YouTube review. It's because of these 3 large ones, which I liked. And you can see the water spots are just really obvious on these, really kind of, they're poor quality, but as far as in stock and when you really want a heavy-duty pick, I like this idea. I like the fact that you can get a 7-piece set and you get some regular ones, and if you have any kind of heavier duty situations, you have some really thick ones, even if they're not the best steel or anything, just their absolute diameter, which seems, it's like 5 millimeters. I mean, that's a pretty thick shaft. I can't even make it flex Really, this is what attracted me to them, because there's been a few situations where I've really needed to put a lot of force and just have a lot of picks and realize that I was going to bend or damage one just trying to muscle out, say, a snap ring that's in a weird spot or something like that, which is some situation which I often use these types of picks for starting or working with snap rings, especially specialty ones that you find on bicycles and all sorts of situations. But it sure is nice to have a nice heavy-duty set. This is a nice, thick, big, large hook, an awl or just a straight point, and of course a 90-degree. So overall, get a coupon and get the $7 set for like whatever, $5.50 or $6, and you're going to be much more satisfied. The little orange handled ones is if you're just going to torture them anyway, or you specifically like the high-vis handles. Oh, I was going to mention they have an interesting kind of misprint. They have carbon steel plastic handles, and I thought, I've never heard of that material before. Carbon steel plastic, that must be a new alien technology that Harbor Freight's using on these little orange ones. Anyway, let's finish up with this review. Let me bust out some more commercial grade ones here. We have let's see if I'm zoomed out. I have to get close for all these tools, and then I don't have space for anything else. So I have a little case here. We'll get all the other picks. I did do a review a long time ago of O-ring pick set, review and comparison of all the different ones I have, but it didn't include these. Oh, and eventually I'll do some review. I have a few vintage, just for anybody who's into collecting tools. If you ever see an SK Tools where it's actually this logo with the Sherman Clove, this was before the Sherman Clove has had some issues over the years. Staying in business, has been sold and rebought out and then resold again. But the SK that has this logo is the original SK before the first time they had any kind of financial issues. And so I wanted to point that out. It's really hard to find anything SK that has this. And surprisingly enough, I have a bunch of crinkle cut toolboxes that I found at one of the rare estate sales I went to. For a tool collector, finding little boxes like this from a company like SK is just amazing, because it isn't just the nice crinkle cut steel and the original logos, but when you look at all sorts of stuff like if we can get that to focus, even the little hinges are American made. And I always thought these were funny because these are Excel Sync, made in Stamford, Connecticut. Amazingly enough, maybe some Stanford people made that. Anyway, a professional grade O-ring pick, just for anybody who really wants to know. We have, U.S. General ones. These have aluminum handles with pressed in alloy shanks. So even this one, which is very thin, much thinner than even these orange Harbor Freights, is still more rigid. We have the traditional acetate Craftsman ones. These have always been a staple for a long time, and these are still available. I don't know if we have a part number on this one. We don't. But Craftsman just made so many that you can still find these original ones online. As far as cheaper O-ring pick and hook sets, I would really recommend these Tectons here, because the Tectons really have a nice handle. They have a really nice shape, nice rubber overmolding, knurling. If you're going to order a pick set, order these Tectons. They're really a lot better than either of these Pittsburgh sets, except for the fact that the Pittsburgh comes with these extra heavy-duty ones. And then, of course, you can't forget, we'll pull out these Napas, but Napa has ones that are like this, which are actually aluminum handle, nice strong steel, but these are long shank O-ring picks. And so you should remember that the best thing to do would maybe buy this set, and then buy a set of long shank ones, and that should pretty much take care of any O-rings that you might ever run into. Anyway, I'm going to end the review here since I already rambled too much about SK toolboxes. But I really appreciate everybody watching and subscribing. If you haven't subscribed, please do. Until next time, Catus Maximus out.